She flirts, then pulls back. She shows interest, then goes cold. One moment, you're everything. The next, you're ignored. Sound familiar? That's not love. That's a game. And every time you take the bait, you hand over your power. In this video, we're flipping the script. You won't be the emotional responder anymore. You won't be the guy guessing what she wants next. You'll be the man who changes the entire dynamic. This is the mindset shift she never saw coming, and the one you've been needing all along. You're not here to win her game. You're here to become the game changer. Let's begin. Number 1. Stop reacting. Start leading. When she pulls back or acts unpredictable, most men chase, panic, or beg. But not you. Not anymore. You lead. You don't dance to uncertainty. A Stoic man doesn't react emotionally. He chooses his responses with calm precision. She might expect you to crumble under her silence or her drama. Instead, you remain still, strong, focused. That alone shifts the entire dynamic. When you stop reacting, you stop being part of her game. And that's the beginning of everything changing. She might post something to make you jealous. She might ignore your messages or act hot and cold just to test your emotions. That's the game most men fall into. Chasing her attention, overanalyzing her actions, trying to decode every little move. But a man who understands his worth doesn't play that game. He rewrites the rules by refusing to chase what confuses him. He becomes the game changer. Imagine this. She starts pulling away, becoming colder. She expects you to blow up her phone or ask, "What's wrong?" But you don't. You give her space, not as a punishment, but as a reflection of your clarity. You are not here to fight for attention. You're here to build something real. And if she wants to play games, she'll quickly realize she's playing alone. That's when your silence becomes louder than any words. Your calm presence, your refusal to be provoked, starts doing the real talking. That's Stoicism in action. As Marcus Aurelius once said, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. You choose your peace over her chaos. And in doing so, you become the center of gravity. This doesn't mean you're passive or distant. It means you act with intention. You don't chase, you don't cling, and you definitely don't let someone's emotional roller coaster pull you off your path. When she realizes you're not affected by her unpredictable behavior, she also realizes she's no longer in control of the emotional tempo. You are. And that's where the shift begins. So the next time she pulls back or tests your composure, remember this. Your power isn't in how loudly you speak or how fast you respond. It's in your ability to pause, to assess, and to respond with strength and clarity. That's not weakness. That's mastery. That's Stoic leadership. And that's exactly what makes you unforgettable. Number 2, don't chase. Create gravity. You chasing her validates the game. But when you focus on yourself, your mission, your health, your goals, you become a gravitational force. She feels your detachment. She senses that you're no longer orbiting around her approval. Like the Stoics said, become something the world can't ignore. Not by shouting louder, but by standing still in your value. When you stop chasing, you shift the entire dynamic. Suddenly, the energy changes. You're no longer the man reacting to every breadcrumb of attention. You're not trying to prove your worth, decode her mixed signals, or win back a place in her world. Instead, you become the man who builds his own. That's what it means to be the game changer. You don't respond to her silence with panic. You respond with presence. You stop waiting, and you start building. Imagine a man who, after being ignored or left on read, decides not to double text or overthink. He doesn't spiral into anxiety. Instead, he gets up early the next morning, hits the gym, crushes his workday, spends time around people who respect him, and ends his night reading a book that sharpens his mindset. He doesn't do it to get her attention. He does it because that's who he is becoming. That quiet confidence, that's gravity. It pulls others in without asking for it. This is what the Stoics meant by controlling what is within your power. You don't control whether she texts, whether she regrets, whether she understands what she lost. But you do control your energy, your choices, and the story you're writing with your life. When you redirect that energy inward instead of outward, something incredible happens. Her game loses power. Why? Because you're no longer playing. She might expect you to beg for closure, to compete with her distractions, to feel small in her absence. But you don't shrink. You expand. You rise. You surprise her not with noise, but with calm. And that stillness, that self-respect, it speaks louder than any words. So before we move forward, take a moment. If this message hits home, let us know in the comments. Share your thoughts, or simply type, "I don't chase, I build." And if you're finding value here, don't forget to like the video. Let's keep going. It gets deeper from here. Number 3. Calm is your superpower. She tries to provoke you? Let her. Your calm will disturb her more than any angry text or emotional rant. Why? Because she's used to control through chaos. But a man who doesn't flinch, doesn't plead, doesn't react, that man commands respect. That's not apathy. That's inner peace. And peace is power. Most people underestimate the power of emotional stillness. In a world addicted to reaction, where a single text can send someone spiraling, your silence becomes a language of its own. When she pulls away, when she acts distant or drops subtle provocations just to test you, she's not always doing it consciously. Sometimes it's emotional muscle memory. She's used to men crumbling, chasing, overcompensating. She's seen the pattern play out before. She withdraws, he panics. She creates tension. He tries to fix it. She pushes. He pulls harder. But what happens when you don't play that role? When you lean back instead of forward? When you stop trying to prove your worth and start protecting your peace? That's when everything changes. Instead of feeding the fire, you become the still mountain beside it. And that calm presence, not cold, not indifferent, just centered, shakes her more than any dramatic outburst ever could. Because now she's unsure. Now she's the one questioning. Why isn't he reacting? Why does he seem okay without me? That's when curiosity creeps in. And from curiosity comes doubt. And from doubt, desire. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." You can't control what she says, what games she plays, or how she tries to trigger you. But you can control how you respond. And when you choose peace over performance, composure over chaos, you shift the dynamic entirely. Let's say she blocks you one day, posts something flirty the next, and then suddenly vanishes for a week. That's a game. She's expecting confusion, reaction, a flood of messages asking what's wrong. But what if you didn't move? What if you kept going, stayed focused on your purpose, didn't let it shake your center? She'd feel that silence like an echo. Because it's not just that you're not reacting, it's that you've outgrown the need to. You've evolved past the back and forth, the emotional tug of war. And that's when she realizes she's not in control of your emotions anymore. That's when your calm becomes your loudest message. Number 4. Know the difference between interest and a test. Not everything she does is affection. Sometimes it's a test. She flirts, then withdraws. She opens up, then goes cold. A Stoic man doesn't jump at every breadcrumb. He watches, he discerns, because he knows that if he has to perform to be chosen, he's not being seen, he's being auditioned. And here's the key. You're not here to win a role in someone else's drama. You're here to live your truth. When a woman tests you by pulling back, going silent, or becoming inconsistent, it's not always because she's confused. Sometimes she wants to see if you will chase, bend, or break, just to gain her validation. That's where most men fall. They react. They overtext. They explain themselves. They abandon their peace to prove something. But that's not what a game changer does. A game changer doesn't fall for the illusion of interest. He recognizes the emotional bait and lets it pass. He doesn't respond with insecurity. He responds with clarity. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." In the same way, if her actions don't feel aligned with sincerity, you don't engage with confusion. You remain still, calm, unshaken. Let her wonder why her push and pull isn't working on you. Let her feel the weight of your silence when she plays hot and cold. You're not here to be tested. You're here to lead. And when she realizes she can't move you like the rest, that's when the dynamic shifts. That's when she starts to question her own moves. Because you didn't react like a player. You changed the game. So remember, your value isn't proven by how hard you try. It's revealed by how calmly you walk away from what's not real. Stay grounded, stay discerning, and above all, don't play her games. Be the one who rewrites the rules. Before we move on, take a moment to really sit with this. How many times have you mistaken a test for affection? How often have you chased clarity in places where there was only confusion? The truth is, when you stop performing for approval, you start living in alignment with your highest self. That shift in energy, it changes everything. So I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever felt like you were being auditioned instead of truly seen? Let's keep going. It gets deeper from here. Number 5. Don't join the drama. Master the moment. She posts a story meant to make you jealous. She brings up your past mistakes out of nowhere. Don't bite. Every game is an invitation to chaos. And your job? To stay grounded. You don't match her energy. You raise it by refusing to participate. Be the calm in the storm. Let her feel the difference. Now, listen closely, because this is where most men fall into the trap. They see her behavior and take it personally. She flirts with someone else on purpose. She leaves your message on read, but stays active online. She posts a mysterious quote, clearly aimed at you. And your instinct? It's to respond, to call her out, to prove you still matter. But that's exactly what the game is designed to do. Pull you off center. A Stoic man does the opposite. He recognizes that not every provocation deserves a response, because the man who is ruled by emotion is easy to predict, easy to manipulate, and easy to replace. But the man who keeps his center, who stays unmoved by shallow tactics, that man becomes rare. And in a world of emotional chaos, rarity becomes value. Let me give you an example. You've been distant, focused, and suddenly she posts a throwback with her ex. You know what that's about. She wants a reaction. She wants you to stumble. But you don't take the bait. You don't text her. You don't confront her. Instead, you double down on your discipline. You hit the gym. You work on your craft. You move in silence because you understand her drama is a test, not a tragedy. And guess what? That silence, it speaks, not just to her, but to yourself. It tells you that you're no longer a puppet to someone else's games. You're not the man who panics, who needs to clarify, who needs to win every emotional tug of war. You're the man who understands that sometimes the greatest power is restraint. You're no longer performing. You're living by principles, not emotions. As Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And when you stop reacting, you start leading. You lead yourself. You set the tone, and slowly she'll notice, not just your absence, but your calm, your focus, your gravity. That's when the shift happens. Not because you played harder, but because you stopped playing at all. So when the drama shows up, and it will, choose stillness. Choose dignity. Don't rise to her chaos. Rise above it. That's what makes you the game changer. You're not here to prove your worth to someone who's playing games. You're here to protect your peace, walk with purpose, and let your calm become your loudest response. Number 6, be the one who walks when it's time. Too many men stay too long, hoping she'll change. But the real power move? Knowing when to leave, silently, peacefully, without drama. You're not walking away from her. You're walking toward yourself. Just like a Stoic leaves a burning city to preserve his soul, you leave emotional games to protect your peace. I know it's hard. You invested time. You believed in her potential. You remembered the good moments, and maybe deep down you thought your patience would inspire her to finally treat you right. But a Stoic man doesn't gamble his peace on someone else's transformation. He accepts reality as it is, not as he wishes it to be. And when the signs are clear, he doesn't beg for breadcrumbs. He rises and chooses dignity. Sometimes walking away doesn't come with a grand speech. It doesn't mean slamming doors or trying to prove a point. It means seeing the situation with clear eyes. It means realizing that love mixed with confusion, disrespect, or inconsistency isn't love, it's chaos. And a man who values his mind, his heart, and his mission doesn't sit in chaos hoping it'll settle. He removes himself and walks into stillness. Let's say she starts pulling away, responding less, sending mixed signals, flirting one day, cold the next. Maybe she's trying to test your patience, to see if you'll chase, to see if you'll crack. And most men do. They explain. They apologize for things they didn't even do. They try to fix it. But not you. Not anymore. The Stoic man doesn't react to confusion with more confusion. He responds with clarity. And sometimes, that clarity looks like letting go. You don't walk to punish her. You don't walk to make her miss you. You walk because your soul deserves peace, not puzzles. You walk because staying would mean betraying yourself. And that's the one betrayal a man like you cannot allow. As Epictetus taught, if someone can provoke you, realize that your mind is complicit. So when the games begin, when silence is used as a weapon, when affection is used as bait, you refuse to be a player. You become the observer, and eventually, the one who exits the arena altogether. And here's the truth. Your calm exit will echo louder than any argument, because she won't remember the man who pleaded. She'll remember the man who saw through the game and chose not to play. The man who didn't raise his voice, but raised his standard. That's the man who shifts the dynamic. That's the man who becomes the game changer. So be that man. Be the one who doesn't need to prove his worth. Be the one who walks when it's time, with grace, with silence, with power. Because the moment you stop trying to be chosen, is the moment you choose yourself. And that, my friend, is when everything changes. Number 7, hold your frame, or she'll frame you. If you don't know who you are, she'll define it for you. And not because she's evil or manipulative, often it's unconscious. People test limits. It's human. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If you don't have a strong frame, the dynamic will shift, and not in your favor. You'll start dancing to her rhythm instead of your own. You'll find yourself saying yes when you mean no, apologizing just to keep the peace, over-explaining yourself, and slowly chipping away at your own identity, all for the illusion of closeness. But Stoicism teaches us that inner clarity must outweigh outer approval. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." If you let someone else decide how you show up, what you tolerate, or what you're worth, then you've handed over the script of your life. You've given her the pen and allowed her to write your role in her story. And trust me, she won't respect a character that constantly rewrites himself just to stay relevant. Holding your frame isn't about dominance or ego. It's about grounded presence. Think of it like this. When a storm comes, weak trees snap. But an oak stands tall, rooted. It bends with the wind, but it doesn't fall. That's the kind of energy a man must bring into relationships. Not rigidity, but strength, emotional control, standards that aren't up for debate. For example, imagine you're seeing a woman who constantly threatens to walk away every time you set a boundary. If you panic and chase, what have you taught her? That your values are negotiable. But if you look her in the eye and say, "I care about you, but I won't abandon my integrity to keep you," something shifts. That's not a tactic. That's a man who values himself more than the approval of anyone else. Women don't respect a man who plays along just to avoid tension. They respect the man who respects himself. If you fold every time she tests you, whether it's with silence, games, or emotional pullbacks, she will start to lose the very attraction that brought her to you in the first place. And when that happens, it's not her fault. It's yours. So don't play her games. Don't try to impress or convince. Be the game changer. Be the man who holds his frame, not with arrogance, but with calm certainty. The kind of man who knows what he wants, what he allows, and what he will never accept. That energy? That's rare. That's powerful. And that's exactly why she won't be able to forget you. Because most men bend. But you build. That's how you win. Not the relationship, not the moment, but yourself. And once you've got that, no one can frame you again. Take a moment to really sit with this. In a world that constantly tries to define you, your greatest act of strength is to define yourself. How many times have you bent just to keep someone around, only to lose a piece of yourself in the process? And what would it look like if, for once, you stood firm, not out of anger, but out of respect for your own worth? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever caught yourself rewriting your role to stay relevant in someone else's story? Or simply type, "I write my own script now." Let's keep going. This next part goes even deeper. Number 8, let her feel the weight of your absence. When you go silent, it's not punishment, it's clarity. You're not doing it to manipulate her emotions. You're doing it because your presence is earned, not demanded. Let her wonder. Let her feel the space where your energy used to be. Because that silence, it speaks, loudly. And she'll hear every word you didn't say. There's a difference between reacting and responding, and most men get trapped in reaction. She pulls back, and they chase. She tests him, and he explains. She plays hot and cold, and he walks right into the fire, But the game changer moves differently. He doesn't respond to every shift in her mood like a leaf in the wind. He stands like a tree, rooted. And when things start to feel like a performance, he exits the stage. Not with drama, not with resentment, just silence, unbothered, clear. Let me be real with you. When a woman senses that your presence is always guaranteed, she stops valuing it. But when you remove yourself, not with anger, but with calm self-respect, you disrupt the entire emotional pattern. You're not being passive-aggressive. You're not ghosting. You're simply choosing not to participate in a dynamic that drains your peace. And that's the essence of Stoicism, protecting your soul from unnecessary suffering. Like Epictetus said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. So let her feel that shift. Let her sit in the silence you once filled with attention, reassurance, and care. Let her scroll through old messages and notice the absence of new ones. Let her realize that the man who once reached out now reaches inward, into his purpose, into his discipline, into his self-worth. That absence isn't emptiness, it's presence, redirected. And eventually, if she starts to reflect, if she begins to miss the man she once had on standby, she'll come to a quiet truth. The game only worked when you played it. But you didn't. You walked away with grace, with calm, with power. And in that stillness, she learned something no argument or explanation could ever teach. Your value is felt most when it's no longer available on demand. That's the move. That's how you change the game. Not with noise, but with silence. Not by chasing, but by walking away with your dignity intact. Let her feel the weight of that absence, and let it remind her who you truly are. Number 9. Purpose over proof. Stop trying to prove you're enough for her. Stop over-explaining, over-giving, overextending. Because every time you try to justify your worth to someone who's unsure of you, you're handing over your power. You're turning your life into a courtroom, constantly presenting evidence, hoping for a verdict that says you're good enough to be kept. But here's the truth. A man who lives for proof will always be stuck chasing permission to be himself. And what does that proof even look like? More text messages, more favors, more apologies for things you didn't even do wrong. That's not love, that's performance. You become reactive instead of proactive. And in that mode, you're not leading. You're following her mood, her games, her shifts. You're dancing to a tune that changes whenever she wants, and you call that connection? That's not a relationship. That's a test you'll never pass, because the rules keep changing. Now listen, this is where you break the cycle. Redirect that energy. Take your need to be enough and pour it into something that actually builds you. Your fitness, your mindset, your finances, your peace, your purpose. You see, when a Stoic man walks through life, he doesn't walk around asking, "Am I enough?" He walks with purpose, knowing that the only person who needs to be convinced of his worth is himself. Like Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." And craving someone else's approval is poverty of the soul. Purpose doesn't beg. It doesn't chase. It creates gravity. And the wild part is, once you stop needing to be seen, that's when people start to look. They feel your shift. They notice your silence. They sense that something about you no longer needs them. That's the most attractive thing you'll ever do. Not try to win her, but grow to the point where you no longer need to be won. By then, something magical happens. You've built momentum. You've outgrown her games. You're no longer playing on her field because you built your own. And now, If she wants a seat at your table, she'll have to meet you in purpose, not in proof. You don't have to prove yourself to be chosen. You just have to become so aligned with your mission that being misunderstood doesn't even bother you anymore. That's what it means to be the game changer. You're not in this to impress. You're in this to evolve. Number 10. Change the game by not needing to win. The most powerful men aren't obsessed with outcomes. They don't need to win the girl. They are the prize. A Stoic man detaches from results, not because he doesn't care, but because his value isn't tied to external validation. So whether she stays, leaves, tests, or ignores, you remain the same, centered, calm, and free. Let me tell you something most men get wrong. They believe they need her to choose them for their worth to be real. They think that if she comes back, if she says, "I miss you," that somehow validates them. But that mindset? That's exactly how you lose yourself. Because the moment you base your value on her reaction, you've already surrendered your power. A Stoic doesn't chase emotions. He acknowledges them, he feels them, but he isn't ruled by them. He doesn't make his choices hoping for a specific outcome. He makes them because they align with his principles. And this is the core of it. When you stop needing to win her, you change the entire game. You're not playing by her rules anymore. You're living by your own. She pulls away, you don't chase. She sends a cryptic story, you don't react. She tests your patience, you remain still. And not because you're trying to manipulate her, but because you've outgrown the emotional circus. You've trained yourself to be calm where others panic, quiet where others beg, strong where others fold. Imagine this. A woman posts something designed to spark jealousy. Most guys bite the bait. They slide into her DMs, they try to re-engage. They show her she still has power over them. But you nod, close the app, and return to your focus. You get back to building your business, hitting the gym, spending time with people who nourish your mind. That silence, that lack of reaction, that's the energy of a man who doesn't need to win. That's the man she can't forget. Because here's the paradox. The less you try to win her over, the more magnetic you become. The less you explain yourself, the more mysterious you feel. The less you react, the more she begins to question why. And that question? That's what haunts her. Why doesn't he need me like the others did? You've become the standard, not the seeker. You've become the calm in her storm, the man she remembers when her games no longer work. Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." That includes her behavior, her silence, her attention. Let her play her games, but don't join in. Stand tall, unbothered, deeply rooted in your own value. That's how you change the game. By not needing to win, you already have. And that's the shift, brother. This journey wasn't about getting her back or proving a point. It was about remembering who you are. The man who doesn't need to play games to feel worthy. The man who doesn't chase chaos, but chooses clarity. You've seen how composure, purpose, and silence aren't weaknesses. They're your weapons. She expected you to react, to chase, to crumble. But instead, you did something rare. You stood still. You held your frame. You became the game changer. And in doing that, you didn't just change how she sees you. You changed how you see yourself. If this message resonated, if it reminded you of your power, your peace, your worth, then don't keep it to yourself. Like this video to show you're stepping into a new standard. Drop a comment below. Let me know which part hit hardest, or simply type, "I'm the game changer." And if you're ready to go even deeper, Don't stop here. Watch the videos on screen now. They're crafted to keep you grounded, focused, and powerful. I'll see you in the next one. Stay calm, stay clear, stay legendary.